Hey, Charles. Good morning.
Hey, what's up, Bruce?
Oh, not much. How are you?
Good, man.
How was your weekend?
Oh, it's chilling. Pretty good. How about you?
A little chill, a little not.
Oh, were you busy?
So, um, anyway, I see you're streaming already in YouTube. I'll let you go. You're all up and running and good. Uh, I will take off.
All right. Well, you could stay and hang out if you wanted to, but I appreciate you stopping by.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Good luck.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bye.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome, one, welcome all. We're happy to have you here today. If you don't know, my name is Charles. I run a YouTube channel called Piratetraders, where I talk about markets and try to create a community for people to support one another and grow in their trading. Here today on this live stream, I'm just going to be kind of giving you a rundown of what I see happening in the markets, what I predict moving forward, and then we'll hang out and watch the opening bell together. So if you have any questions for me, please put those questions in the YouTube chat. I can't actually look at the Discord at the same time that I'm live streaming. We're working on dealing with that, but for now, those questions got to come in on the YouTube. All right. So let's start by just taking a step back. I generally like to just, particularly on a Monday morning, to just kind of give myself a little bit of perspective. Nothing wrong with that. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the monthly chart. And there's not any really specific trade setups that I'm looking for here. I'm just looking to give me an idea of what the market is doing. So when I just zoom out and I look very quickly at the monthly chart, to me, the market is in balance. You see this large white box? That is balance on the monthly, which means essentially the market is just working its way up and down inside this range, trying to break out one way or another until it is able to get above the high and find support for continuation, or fall back down below the low and find resistance for continuation. On the monthly, I'm assuming we're going to keep going sideways. Okay. So we'll just jump into the weekly real quick and ask ourselves, is there any particular levels that jump out at us as being important, looking at it on the weekly? Well, there are a couple things that jump out at me. First and foremost is the fact that we are at the upper end of this range, right? That the high we just made is very, very similar to the previous highs that caused this market to reverse and head the other direction. So that's the first thing I'm making note of. It's not bullish or bearish, it's just a piece of information. The next thing I'm noticing is the balance. Clearly, I can see that whilst it felt like we had one little balancing area here on the daily, and then another little balancing area here on the daily, when I look at it on the weekly, it seems like it's probably just a larger balance area. That tells me the highest probability, again on the weekly, is that we're heading down towards that balance area low. Doesn't mean it has to happen today. Doesn't mean I'm bearish. I'm just taking it on as a piece of information to carry forward. Okay, so then I'm jumping into the daily, and I'm asking myself, what do I see on the daily? What jumps out at me here as an important thing to keep in mind? Well, first off, if we're talking about momentum, I can see that the momentum has clearly rolled over. Okay, there was momentum to the upside. We made these new lows. We pushed higher. We got this big short covering rally, and so far, all we've done is spend time rotating at higher prices. So that is all very bullish that the market wants to keep going. But seeing that it's rolling over tells me that bullishness might be coming to an end, and I want to be aware of that. The next thing that I'm noticing that's jumping out at me is the momentum on the daily. We are starting to form a little bit of a channel to the downside. We're making lower highs and lower lows on the daily. So, last week it was slowly trending down, not very far, but slowly trending down on the daily. Will that keep going today? Will we make new lows and new highs today? Or will we turn around and head back up? So that all just kind of gives me a place to start from. Now, what's my takeaway from looking at the monthly, the weekly, and the daily? Well, honestly, and this is very unsatisfying, the answer is I just generally don't know. I could make a case that the market is turning around right now to break out to the upside, and we can look for a bunch of continuation there. Visually, that looks like the most likely scenario. But I could just as easily make the case for the fact that the market just rolled over. We need to pull down, test the 4,100 area, and then if we can't find support there, look for continuation lower. And I could also make a case that we might spend the whole week this week just going sideways inside the range from the last 2 weeks, right? There's no reason why we can't just keep going sideways in this range. So honestly, looking at monthly, weekly, daily, I'm completely neutral, and I think the market could go anywhere. So I'm going to zoom in and take a look a little closer with the market profile software and try to find some nuances in here that I can use to give me a signal of what is happening, right? To try to know what is going to happen today and what is taking place. Okay. So first and foremost, the thing that jumps out at me is the fact that the market is going to open completely neutral. Okay, what does that mean? What do I mean by completely neutral? I just mean there is the same number of buyers and sellers. Why is that? Because we closed right chaw, and we're going to open right chaw. So literally, the overnight over the weekend went nowhere. Where you going? Nowhere. Okay, so that's neither bullish nor bearish. It's neutral. It doesn't give us any insights moving forward. The one thing I will carry from the overnight, though, is the fact that we were able to get below Friday's lows. That is a little bit bearish to see. So when the market opens this morning, because we are opening inside the previous day's range, I'm going to assume chop. I'm going to say to myself, probably the market is going to grind up and down in a very tight range. It's going to drive lots of traders mad in that first hour or so, while it just reverses once and again and once and again and once and again, over and over. So I'm not going to mess around with that chop. I'm going to avoid that chop. But there are opportunities if I can watch how the market chops and figure out what's going on. So the first opportunity that the market will give us is that overnight high, okay, which we could call 41.5725. That's the first level of interest to me. So the question is when we get there, what happens, right? If the market opens and we grind a little bit and we push up there, what happens when we get above that overnight high? Do we instantly fail and pull right back down? Or are we able to stay up there and bring in some new buyers and keep the business going? If we are, I will look to test yesterday's high. So support, I'm not guessing ahead of time. I want to be crystal clear about this. This is not a guess ahead of time. This is something I will need to see happen in real time, in the moment, then I will know. So if the market can get above the overnight high and find support, it is a good trade to test yesterday's high. Okay. If we're able to get to yesterday's high, same thing there. We get above yesterday's high and then we find new buyers and we stay up there. Well, that's bullish for continuation higher. Why? Because of all those things that we talked about looking at the daily. That there is a very real argument to be made. Sorry, give me 1 second. There's a real argument to be made that this market is heading higher, right? That this is all just giant momentum to the upside, and this market is just going to keep going. So if we're able to get above yesterday's high, if we're able to get above Friday's high, my assumption is we're back on that train. Okay, so I'm bullish as soon as I see support above yesterday's high for continuation higher. No momento, man. It's so much harder when I have my system like this. Okay, so that's if we find support at the overnight high and push up to yesterday's high. If we find support at yesterday's high, I'm bullish for continuation higher. Well, what if it doesn't? What if, let's say, it pushes up to the overnight high and it doesn't find support there, it comes back in? Or let's say it pushes up to that overnight high, it does find support there, and then it heads up to yesterday's high, but it doesn't find support there. It looks above and pulls back in. Either of those moves, a look above and fail of the overnight, or a look above and fail of yesterday's high, both of those signal to me that the market isn't ready to go higher. So that means I am not bullish. I am either neutral or bearish. So then I watch the market chop its way down. Now, I know we have these weak references down here at 41.49 and 41.47.25. Those weak references are in need of repair. So if the market can't go higher, I'm almost certain we'll come down and repair those weak references. But once again, that's where I want to watch and see what happens to the market there. So I've got support right here around 41.48, and I've got support right here around 41.44. That is the area I'm watching for as the downside to the chop zone. Come on, pen tool. Work with me here. Okay. So basically, if the market tries to get above yesterday's high and can't, I'm looking for it to come down. Once it does, where does it find support? If it can find support in here or it can find support in here, I'm going to assume more chop. That is the market telling me it just wants to go sideways. It went up, it couldn't go higher, it came down, couldn't go lower. It just wants to keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and it may do it all day inside the chop zone. Look, they did it all night on this night. No reason we can't have a day like that again today. Okay? Only if we break below 41.44 and we start to get new selling there, do I think, okay, we're heading down to test Friday's lows, and then I'm monitoring for continuation lower from there. Okay? So it's really simple. My approach to the markets today is really, really simple. Levels of interest? Right there. As long as we can find support above the first one, we'll head to the second. As long as we can find support above the second, we'll keep going. If either of those fails, we're heading down to the lower levels. If we find support at the lower level, we're turning back around and heading up. If not, testing the next one. Find support there, turn around and head back up. If not, we're going lower. So that's it. So now when the market opens, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to sweat at all. I can just draw a little box and say to myself, here's my chop zone. We're going to chop it up inside that chop zone. And only if we can break out one way or another will I look for a trade. Okay. So I can go long if we find support up here, or I can go short for a look above and fail. I can go short down here with resistance for a breakout, or I can go long with a look below and fail. But in the middle, I don't diddle. In the middle, it's just a guess. It's just a gamble. And I leave that to the short-term traders to pick each other's pockets. We got 53 people hanging out, only 15 likes. Smash that like button and let me know if you have any questions in the chat. Good morning to Tim A. Darth Liquidity, chillin' with Dylan. Mark, novice trader. The Shaw. Novice trader says, crush? Sure. Vladimir, welcome. Why don't we just take a quick second to pop over and look at the NQ? Oof. Yikes. That's a mess. So the NQ clearly balancing on the daily. Look at that. Ugh. Yeah, 16 days. 16 days, half a month of going nowhere. Where you going nowhere? So obviously on the NQ, to me, intraday, this is incredibly difficult to trade. You're just right in the middle of a balance area. They could easily take it back up towards the balance area high or take it towards the balance area lower or just do whatever they want in the middle. So that's very difficult to trade intraday. Let's jump into the chart and look for some levels. Might give us some clues. Okay, so you do still have that same momentum on the daily as the ES, where you're making lower highs, lower lows consistently, and you've got the value overlapping to lower 3 days in a row, so that is a little bit bearish to see. So actually, you could play this very similar to the ES. You're looking at chop in the beginning of the day to stay basically above 13,070 or 13,060, and then that overnight high around 13,100. And so in between there, you're just looking for the market to grind around and drive you mad. But same as I said with the ES, if they can find support above the overnight high, that would be bullish to try and test Friday's high. If they can find support above Friday's high, that's very bullish, right? Because of the break of that momentum. But if not, if they look above and fail, I mean, you're just going to chop it up. And I would only really get bearish for further downside continuation if you broke below 13,060 and then started to get some resistance there. Then I would look to test that overnight low and monitor for continuation from there. But yeah, I would say between the 1360 and 13,100 area, it's just going to be a mess. Choppity, choppity, chop, chop. I'm talking about a chop zone. Trading Donkey. Been a minute. How are you? Nora's here. Good morning. Anybody got any questions for me? I got nothing to do for the next 11 minutes. I've covered everything I have to cover. Nothing left for me to do now but wait. Caution says, the challenge is watching the damn thing play out. I need to throw away my mouse. I know it's very hard. And this is something I was just recently talking about with a group of people in the workshop, was that, like, you know, if there's one thing I can be certain of, it is that before the market opens, when I read the chart and I look for an understanding of what could happen that day, I'm really good at it. Like, I'll always come up with 3 potential scenarios. A scenario where it could go up, a scenario where it could go sideways, and a scenario where it could go down. And I have really good, like win rate of guessing one of those 3 scenarios. Like, almost always one of those 3 will happen almost exactly as I described it. But when I go back at the end of the day, after a day of trading, where throughout the day, you know, the emotions and the excitement and the auction process and everything gets me so worked up, I might feel so confused and so like, I don't know what to do. Should I go long here? Should I do this? Should I do that? But then when I look back at the end of the day, it's like the market did exactly what I thought it was going to do. Like tick for tick, it went exactly to the level I thought it was going to go. It found support. It continued. But like, because it spent like an hour and a half grinding right on that level and the ticks were all over the place. And it's like in the moment, you get so lost in the complexities of what's happening that you really have to remind yourself to just step back and take it very, very simply. The basic idea is they're going to try to take the market up or down. If they can't, they're going to go the other way. And once that opening bell rings, it becomes harder and harder to keep that simplicity clear in your mind. Yo-yo. Do you look at stocks like NVIDIA? I don't look at individual names, but we've got 9 minutes. I'll pull it up if you want. So I should also preface, I have no edge whatsoever with this, with just looking at daily candlesticks by themselves. Yeah, I would put NVIDIA, I mean, this is no surprise, but exactly right with NQ. It's the same thing. So they're balancing and they're stuck inside this range. And because we're like right in the middle of it, you really can't guess which way they're going to go. So if I was trading NVIDIA, I would wait until it got around the 279, 10, 11 area, and I would look for either a breakout with support for continuation or a look above and fail. So you're either looking, can the market come back up, find support, right? And then that support is buyable. Or does it come up, fail, and start to pull back in? You could then short it to get to the opposite end right there. Or if it heads to the lows, the same thing down here around the 265 area. So if it comes down, it finds support, you could buy that for a rotation back up. Or if it looks below, comes back up and finds resistance, you could sell that for continuation lower. But as long as it's grinding around inside this zone, it will be difficult to predict, in my humble opinion. And for what it's worth, this looks pretty bullish to me. I mean, this is a little bit steep here, so they probably need a pullback, but that looks like accumulating right here. Novice says AI stock. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a funny meme about that the other day. It's like NVIDIA can't lose. they're like the perfect, whatever the hype thing is of the moment. When the hype thing was crypto, they did well because of that. When the hype thing was NFTs, they did well because of that. When the hype thing is AI, they're doing well because of that. David says, can I look at CLF? I assume you mean crude futures. Ooh. Yeah, you don't want to be long that right now. That was not ideal. I would say you could have bought 81.21 to see if they could keep it going. So they had this gap up. Then they just went sideways. Let me zoom in. Sorry, guys. It's probably very small for you. Okay, so they had this gap up. And then they balanced for about 5 days. So if the breakout, if you bought right here, right? If you bought the retest of that breakout looking for continuation, that would be fine. But you should have been stopped out very quickly when they didn't find support there. From that point on, it was a rotation to the opposite end, and now it's a breakout lower. So in my opinion, and again, I'm not a crude trader, so don't take this, as a tradable thing, but I think they're trying to fill that gap. So I think until you get back down to 75, you don't want to be long. There's potential down here, though. So the question is, what got you into the long? What would have told you you were wrong? If you were trading the momentum because you had a gap up, that's fine. That's totally fine. But as soon as that momentum broke, you should have been out of that trade. Invictus is saying the Dow, the Q, and the Russell are all looking strong. Looks like we might grind higher. To convince me that you're right, we got to make a new high. So we got to get above yesterday's high and break this downtrend on the daily. But if we can, yep, I'd be happy to get bullish. Not until I see it, though. All right, so for those of you that are just joining us 1 minute before the market opens, because the overnight inventory took us down to yesterday's low but brought us right back up almost to the closing price on Friday, I assume the overnight inventory is neutral. So this morning, I am expecting the market to just chop and grind. I've got resistance levels marked up here around 41.59 and 41.63. And support levels marked down here around 41.48 and 41.44. I suspect between those levels, the market is just going to grind. So if we push up and get rejected, it'll come back down. If we push down and find support, we'll come back up. And it will only be when we can break through these levels that we'll get any further continuation. So I'm just watching for what the market does when it gets there. Okay, so we created a weak low. That increases the odds we're going to have to come back for it. So don't get overly bullish. We got the the bot shenanigan zone happening over here on the Bookmap. That's just a signal to us that there's short-term bots trading with each other and not to trust anything we're seeing until that ends. Okay, so we pushed above the overnight high. We're now testing the resistance. Here's where the market can give us a signal. Can we turn the overnight high into support? 41.57. Okay, looking to test that support. Generally, the first clue that a market is going to break out of a chop zone, it will find support at the halfback. The fact that we just did not means more chop, baby. More chop. Ooh, look at that bot shenanigan zone. Someone's playing some kind of game here. I don't know what it is. They needed to get 200 long and 500 short at exactly the same level. I don't know why. Oh, David, no, you were looking for the ticker signal? My bad. We'll look at that in a bit. Okay, so opportunity number 2. Can they now turn the overnight high into support? Can they hold 57? If they can hold 41.57 from here, they should be able to head up and test yesterday's high at 41.46. If they pass back through the halfback again, then we know there'll just be more chop. Can they hold it? Since I'm in a bookmap room, I've always wondered, does anybody have an idea why they do this? Where they put a iceberg order in here that automatically moves tick for tick for tick with price, but it doesn't ever seem to let it fill. When I first started seeing them, I thought it was like they were looking for a liquidation and they would get filled on that, but they just don't let it get filled. I'd love any ideas of what's going on here. Doesn't happen often. John says, I think it's Pappy. Okay, so they keep reversing on this exact level. You guys see this level around 41.59? They keep reversing right there, and we can see this big node of volume. That tells us that they're doing that on purpose to create liquidity above. So they keep reversing, hoping that the sellers will then put their stops up here, and that gives them liquidity for a pop higher. So I am now bullish to test that high from yesterday, 41.61, and we'll see what happens there. Coop, if iceberg orders fill in a chunk, but those orders never fill, how do we know it's an iceberg order? It's a great question. Well, it's what the software defines as iceberg. So they partially filled, but they kept the rest of those orders in. So it's just the same account that filled some at right here. So they filled a little bit, and then they just kept those orders. So the computer is just tracking the fact that the same account has orders in the order book. But like I said, it's unusual to me. It doesn't really make sense. There's so many things happening I just don't understand in markets these days. Someone's doing something. Hopefully they're making money. Okay, so there's the test of yesterday's high. That is bullish to see, purely because it breaks that downtrend on the daily. We now have higher highs and higher lows, value overlapping to higher. So now the question is, can we turn Friday's high, 41.60, into support for continuation higher, or do we pull right back down in the range and get more chop? Okay, that is new buyers at yesterday's high, which is bullish. So I am now bullish for continuation to the upside. And I stay bullish as long as we are above 41.57, which is the current halfback and the overnight high. If we're going to get continuation to the upside, we should be able to hold support there. Mark says, I know it's early, but the AD chart in the internals looks pretty suspicious. Suspicious? Let's take a look. Ooh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that wick is scary looking. It's all right. They're above the zero line for now. We'll just have to give it some more time to get a good signal out of that. All right, it appears we might not have the buyers at yesterday's high to get continuation. I remain bullish above that halfback. We're just looking for buyers right now. Here they go again. So they're trying to short it right at the high to bring in more liquidity above for that next pop. Got 124 people hanging out, only 49 likes. We're not going to go test that resistance until we break 100 likes. It's just the way, it's just the rules of the market. Okay. Let's get those likes going. It's science. So you're saying to yourself, you're saying, Charles, we're starting to break the support at yesterday's high. Shouldn't you be getting bearish as a look above and fail? Well, no, I'm not. And I'm going to tell you why. Because of Bookmap and the way they just made that high, because they stopped at exactly the same level again and again and again. My assumption is there's a reason they did that, to convince you to go short right now. And where are you going to put your stop if you go short right now? Well, you're going to put it right above that high, creating some liquidity up there. All right, well, now what if you get nothing for it? What if the market pushes just a little bit down into yesterday's range and then it bounces right back up? Well, then you're fixing to get yourself squeezed and the market gets another pop. That is what I believe is happening here. Quit playing games with ES. Mark says, Charles, is there advantage to zooming out on Bookmap? More to the profile level? It depends. Sometimes I like to be able to kind of see it bigger picture. It gives me an idea of where the bigger pools of liquidity are. But in a moment right now, all that matters to me is one thing and one thing only, right? If you go back and watch the first 5 minutes, what did I say? If we could get above the overnight high, can we get to yesterday's high? If we can get above yesterday's high, can we hold it? Can we turn it into support? So right now, I don't care about any of this that's happening down here. I don't care about any of this that's happening up here. All I care about is this area right here, right now. Can they hold this? Can they keep that momentum going? So for that, I want to be zoomed right in. Oops. Stop it. This is a great example of those nuances. If all I was looking at was market profile, I'd see good taper and I'd think maybe we made the high. But because of the Bookmap and how zoomed in I am, and I can see they're reversing at exactly the same level, well, then I know it's just to create that liquidity. Jeffrey, can you explain the concept of shorting the high to bring in liquidity? Yeah, I mean, I just did, but I'll explain it once again. So imagine you're the trader, okay? You just saw the market make a high. What are you telling yourself? Uh-oh, we've run out of steam. We're going to go down. I need to get short the market, right? So this whole time, over the last, what's it been? 10 minutes. For 10 minutes straight, they just keep stopping us at the same spot. Stop us, stop us, stop us, stop us. Why? Right? Well, because everyone that's going short right now, like at this second, the people that are going short are putting their stop above there. Okay? So what if the market comes down a little bit, finds support, and then comes back up through that level? What are all those traders who went short, who are going short as we speak? What will they do when the market comes back to that high? They'll exit their trades, right? They'll have their stops get filled, and that pushes the market higher. Does that make sense? So they fake you out to think the market's going to go down to get you to go short, so that when you cover that short, you are the momentum that takes the market higher. And it's literally what they're doing all day, every day. Global trading. They so mean. I don't know, man. Is a shark really mean? He's got to eat too. Private planes are expensive. Darth Liquidity. Algo's just trying to feed their family. Here's one for you. I wonder if a chat BTC type of algorithm were to feel like, if it were to write code for you, that that's its child. All right, so here we go. So now all those short sellers are feeling like geniuses. They just kept going short again and again and again, right at 62. And here's where they think they're about to get something for it. They think the market's going to crash and burn. And what we're wondering is, what happens if we find support and pass right back up through 62 once again? What will happen to all those shorts? Askar says, laugh out loud, man, your long will die today. Agree to disagree. Go back and watch the first 5 minutes. I said, if the market can get above the previous day's high and find support, we can look for continuation. As of now, we're above the previous day's high and we're finding support. So far, I am 100% right. So now we're looking for that short covering pop. Can we get that B period above that A period high? With that, I will say goodbye to everyone. It's time for Bruce's stream to start, so I will say farewell. If you're a member of the brigade, head on over to the private stream and I will see you there. If you're not a member of the brigade, for just $10 a month, you can listen to me talk like this every day for the first hour. As far as what to expect moving forward, I am still bullish. As I said, as long as we remain above 41.58, I remain bullish. I think this is just a move to take us higher. If we start to pull below the halfback, and in particular, if we pass back through the opening price, I will be bearish to head down here and test those lows, that chop zone low. But we'll assume we're just going sideways unless we get below 44 and find resistance there, as we discussed earlier. However, to me, that is less likely at this point, and the higher probability is continuation to the upside. Now, how far we'll get, I don't know. But I do believe that's the direction they want to head. So with that, I will say goodbye and wish you the best of luck. Brigade, head on over to the private stream. Thank you kindly, and we'll see you Monday morning.